Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Ben Boxer, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Fairfax County Park Authority. I'd like to welcome you all to our virtual meeting this evening regarding the proposal for a tennis and pickleball court realignment at Wakefield Park. Tonight's meeting will include a brief overview of the Park Authority's proposal presented by our planning and development staff, followed by an opportunity to receive comments and questions about the proposed project. We'll provide instructions for how that will take place following our presentation. This meeting is being conducted electronically through dedicated video and audio conferencing via public input. The meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made available online within the next day or so. I'd like to take a moment and recognize the presence of several Park Authority staff and leadership here this evening. Please keep in mind that the nature of this meeting is informative only, and there will be no votes or action taken on this proposal this evening. This meeting is the beginning component of a 30-day comment period, and there will be additional opportunities to submit comments and feedback to the Park Authority through Thursday, August 8th. We'll provide instructions for how to do that a little bit later on as well. Before I get started, I would specifically like to recognize the presence of Supervisor James Walkinshaw, who's with us this evening, Chairman and Braddock District Representative of the on the Park Authority Board, Kyle Stone. And our speakers this evening will also include Amy Vosper, Deputy Director of the Park Authority, and Robert Boyd, who is a planner with the Park Authority. Happy to have you with us. We'd also, again, like to welcome the supporting staff and supporting cast from our county and Park Authority for joining us this evening. So first, we'd like to start off this evening's meeting with some opening remarks from Supervisor James Walkinshaw. So Supervisor Walkinshaw, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you all for joining us. I'll be brief because I want to get to the presentation and give you, the community, the opportunity to share your feedback on it. I will say I'm excited about what we're going to present today. And obviously, it goes without saying that there's growing interest in Fairfax County in pickleball, and there is sustained interest in tennis. And as someone who has played both pickleball and tennis, not well, but someone who has played both at Wakefield Park, I know that there's intense competition for use of those courts. And I think we have an opportunity here to ensure that we are taking full advantage of the courts and space we have to remove some of that competition and conflict between the two sports that's taken place and give everyone more opportunities to play the sports that they love at Wakefield Park. And I want to thank the Park Authority for the work that they've done to prepare for tonight's meeting. And I want to thank all of you who are listening and participating and will participate throughout the 30-day public comment period. So Ben, I'll turn it back over to you and look forward to the presentation.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Walkinshaw. Next, we'd like to have some opening remarks from our Deputy Director here at the Park Authority, Amy Vosper.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome, and on behalf of the Park Authority, thank you for your attendance this evening. As you know, we have a robust tennis community, and now we have a robust pickleball community as well. We are always on the lookout for ways to accommodate both of these active communities of players. Wakefield is home to a robust racket sports court complex with 9 dedicated tennis courts, 2 dedicated pickleball courts, and 2 dual-use courts for pickleball and tennis. In reviewing the court usage and the layout of the site, we've come up with a proposal that will increase the total number of dedicated tennis and pickleball courts. We appreciate the time you've taken out of your busy lives to listen to our proposal. Robert Boyd, our senior planner, will be presenting our thoughts on meeting the needs of pickleball and tennis at Wakefield. We look forward to your thoughts and comments. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for those remarks, Amy. Appreciate you being here and sharing that with us. We'd like to go ahead and get started with our presentation. As we do, I'd ask that those in attendance please hold your questions till the presentation is concluded. Once we have concluded that presentation, we'll go over how we'll be able to take questions using this public input format and be happy to take those questions and comments as they come. So at this time, Robert, we'll turn it over to you for the project overview.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Can everybody see my screen? See the slides on the screen?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. There.
Perfect.
You're
Do you have it in presentation mode?
Yes.
There.
close.
Yep.
Close. We see the other screen.
Okay. One more time. Third time's a charm. Here we go. Problem is when I go into presentation mode, I lose our Zoom meeting. So let me open that back up.
Perfect. That looks like it's
All right, there we go. Like I said, third time's a charm. All right, as Ben said, we're here to discuss the Wakefield Park Court reconfiguration proposal. Just a little bit of project background. A lot of this Amy's already gone over, but just in case anyone wasn't here for that discussion, we're looking at the usage of dual-use courts at Wakefield. Specifically, those are lined for pickleball and tennis. We're seeing that the usage is trending heavily towards pickleball, and those dual-use courts are not really ideal for either user group. It leads to some conflict and just overall lower quality of use for those courts. We're seeing community input that's calling for increased pickleball capacity, as well as the more dedicated tennis courts. So that's across the county and specifically here at Wakefield. And we also have the situation at Wakefield where Court 11 is in need of resurfacing and repair. And Court 11 is currently a dedicated tennis court. FCPA is using this resurfacing of Court 11 as an opportunity to improve the experience for both user groups, tennis and pickleball, by providing more dedicated use courts for each sport. So the current layout at Wakefield is 9 dedicated tennis courts, 2 dual-use tennis courts, which includes 4 pickleball courts on those dual-use courts, 2 dedicated pickleball courts, and 2 picnic tables. There's also a tennis practice court, which includes 6 bays, 3 on each side of the practice court. The overall proposed scope of this project and proposed reconfiguration of the courts is to convert Court 11, which again is currently a dedicated tennis court, into 4 dedicated pickleball courts, to restripe courts 9 and 10 into dedicated tennis courts, so removing the pickleball lines from those, and to convert the southern half of the tennis practice court into 2 more dedicated pickleball courts. And as part of that conversion of half of the practice wall, we would need a new retaining wall to expand that court surface, as well as some new fencing. There would also be lighting changes for the new courts. There wouldn't be any new lights added, but the current lights would be re-aimed to better serve the new court layout. The new layout would increase dedicated pickleball courts to 8. That's 6 more than are currently on site. Would increase the number of dedicated tennis courts to 10, which is 1 more than are currently on site, and would reduce the number of tennis practice bays to 3, again, retaining 1 side of this tennis practice wall while converting the other side into pickleball courts. The project would be phased into 2 different phases. The first phase would involve the Court 9 and 10 restriping and converting Court 11 into pickleball courts, and also re-aiming the Court 11 lights to serve the new layout. This could be completed as early as fall 2024, depending on weather and also when we get approval from the community and from the internal staff to begin the project. After completing the courts 9, 10, and 11 work, phase 2 would begin in 2025, and phase 2 would include converting the tennis practice wall to 2 dedicated pickleball courts, removing the 2 picnic tables, which are currently just south of the practice wall area, and re-aiming those lights as well. And that work could be completed as early as spring 2025, again, dependent on weather and start time for that work. And we would retain northern half of the practice wall. During all of this work, phase 1 and 2, besides the courts where there's active work ongoing, the other courts would remain open for play. So the overall project timeline, again, phase 1 is looking at about 2 months. This is dependent on weather. In order to stripe the courts, we need a certain ambient temperature overnight. An estimated fall 2024 completion, depending on start time. And then for phase 2, a 3-month work timeline, estimated spring 2025 completion. That's dependent on weather as well, and also permits for the retaining wall. So that's all we have on the proposed scope of the project. So now we're ready to open it up for any questions and comments. I'll leave the slide up for just a moment. If you would like to provide online comments, the QR code can be scanned to submit them online, and we can also receive comments at parkmail@fairfaxcounty.gov.
Thank you, Robert. And on that note, let me just add that comment field on the public input page will be available immediately following this meeting. We'll be updating that page with that comment feature to begin receiving comments for the period of next 30 days. So we appreciate that, Robert. Thank you so much for the update or the project overview. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to hear from you. We welcome your comments, and our staff is standing by to address your questions. In order for this discussion to be an effective one, we do ask that your questions and comments please be specific to the proposal that's been presented. If you have questions about other topics or park facilities, we are interested in hearing from you, but we'd ask that you please email them to us at parkmail@fairfaxcounty.gov, and we'll be happy to review and to respond to those comments and questions as appropriate. Please remember that this meeting is being recorded, and a copy will be provided within the next 24 hours or so. And I'll take just a few minutes to share the process by which we will take questions. First, you are more than welcome to enter any questions or comments that you have into the chat box that you see on this on the screen. We will read them into the meeting, and then we will respond as appropriate following that reading. In terms of if you would like to share your questions or comments live, we would like to give out some instructions for that. You can call in at 1-855-925-2801. I'll be copy and pasting these instructions here into the chat, and that way everyone will see that. Once you call that number 855-925-2801, enter the project code 6161 to enter the meeting. Once you enter that project code, you can open the meeting options by pressing star, and then press the number 3 to enter the speaker's queue. And we'll be taking those questions as they come in. And we'll be taking those questions in the order in which they're received. For all of our callers this weekend or this week, for those that would like to make comment in person, we do ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we'll keep a track on the time, just so we have an opportunity to hear from as many as who would like to participate. And so at this time, we would be more than welcome to open up that call line. So please feel free to call using those instructions that are in the chat. And we will take a question. We do have a question that's been submitted through public input. The question is from Kathy Scully. Thank you, Kathy, for being with us and sharing this question. The dedicated pickleball courts are being proposed seem very close together, even more so than the dedicated pickleball courts currently at Wakefield. Isn't there some concern that the pickleball community will be subject to more injuries while the tennis community receives more and better facilities? That is, 2 additional and more spacious courts. Do we have Robert? Would you be able to respond to that?
Sure. So the spacing between the courts, between the 2 sidelines of the courts will be 8 feet. And I believe it's the same 8 feet on the end lines as well. This is a pretty standard configuration that our contractors used in a lot of places. It's a pretty standard conversion for these 1 tennis court outlines, and it's had success in other places.
Thank you. We have some other questions coming in. You said court 11 will be repaired, I assume repaved. When will courts 1, 2, 7, and 8 be repaired?
At this time, I don't believe there's any plan to resurface those courts. I'm not sure if any of our other staff can confirm when the last time those were resurfaced, but as far as I'm aware, there's not any plans to resurface any courts other than 11, and then the work that we have planned at 9 and 10.
I can speak further to that. This is Karen DeVore, if you'd like me to.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, courts 1 and 2 were last resurfaced in 2012, and that was a reconstruction level effort. Courts 7 and 8 were last in 2015 a repair resurface. So courts 1 and 2 are definitely due. 7 and 8 has 1 more year on its life cycle. Currently, we do not have any plans to address the repair resurface issues on either of those 4 courts.
Thank you for that update. Our next question that we've received, what are the plans for reserved versus open play for the courts? Always a very popular question in terms of court usage.
So we don't have a plan for that yet. Once we have the courts complete, we'll work with our park operations division to schedule any planned leagues that would play there. But we do always make an effort to leave at least 1, and in this case, since there's so many courts there, a few courts open during those times when there is a league scheduled to play. We also have lessons that we offer that could potentially be offered at Wakefield. But again, we work to make sure that we're not taking up all of the court time, that there's still courts available for drop-in play.
Thank you, Robert. Next question from Ralph G. Ralph, welcome. Thank you for joining us. The question is, will the restriping of courts 9 and 10 for tennis only precede the construction of new pickleball courts?
So that's a decision that the contractor will make. It's likely that will be the first thing that happens, just because that's sort of the easiest part of the work. But there will probably be some overlap between courts 9 and 10, and then the work that also goes on at 11. But we expect that the work at courts 9 and 10 will be pretty quick, a couple, 3 weeks. So we'll probably have the contractor knock that out first, but we'll decide that at the time that we begin the project.
Thank you. Our next question. Oftentimes I see pickleball users using the tennis courts, even though they are dedicated for tennis players. Can there be a rule regarding that if the tennis players want to play tennis, that they get first preference if pickleball is on the tennis courts? This is a great question in terms of court usage.
That's something that we could look at.
Sarah, please.
Yeah. Yep, sure. This is Sarah Baldwin, Deputy Director of Operations for the Park Authority. So we have recently refined our rules for pickleball. I think we're open to taking a look at the rules for all courts and evaluating those. At this time, there is not a rule that would say that there can't be certain racket sports on courts. So courts are authorized for use for racket sports, not skateboarding, that sort of thing. But at this point, we're not restricting what racket sport.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Our next question, for both pickleball and tennis and the tennis community, would it be possible to add some awnings for shade?
Would be possible. That's not something we currently have in the project scope, but that's something that we could also look at adding into the project scope.
Thank you. And then looking at the latest comment that was added to the chat, what is the cost estimate for the project?
I will let Amy or Brendan handle this
Yeah,
one.
I can handle that one. I think right now we're looking at the phase 1 and 2 combined are about $260,000. Phase 1 will be less than 100. It's just the permitting and the retaining wall are going to cost, and we actually have to redo that sidewalk as well that goes through there. So that's the price difference at this point. Hopefully, we'll get better prices than that, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. And I do know that we have some callers on the line. For those that would like to contribute directly, please remember you can always press star to access the meeting menu, and then press number 3 to enter the caller's queue, and we can take your question or comment over the phone. We do appreciate and want to recognize that we did see the comment. There are major cracks in the courts. If you would like to provide some more information, we'll definitely take that under advisement. I believe this may be referring back to the earlier comment regarding courts 1, 2, 7, and 8. If this is the same individual, but if you do have some other detail that you'd like to share, please feel free to do that, and we'll take that under advisement. Thank you. We do have another question. Does this construction include any accessories, such as paddle racks for open play and signs that spell out the rules?
So I can take that one. At this time, we do not have those amenities or the shade amenities, but once we get the construction costs and things ironed out, then if there's funding that's available, then we can look at those amenities.
Thank you. I see the comment here in the chat. If tennis courts 1, 2, 7, and 8 are not repaired, and you all are going to do for tennis is and all you're going to do for tennis is repaint courts 9 and 10, then this project basically about improving pickleball opportunities. We appreciate the comment, and that's something that we are going to look into as it's something that we are monitoring. We appreciate that, and we do have staff who are taking note of that. Appreciate the comment. Since we've hit a bit of a lull in the comments, let me just take a moment to just remind everybody that are watching this this recording that here on the web page where you'll be viewing this recording, below there will be a comment field where you may be able to insert and type in additional comments, feedback, suggestions, considerations, questions for the Park Authority to consider over the period of the next 30 days. Please feel free to take advantage of that opportunity. We are more than welcome to receive those comments and questions. Again, we will be receiving them up through August 8th. We have a couple more comments. Thank you. Mr. Peter Montanino, thank you so much for joining us this evening. His comment is the 2024 budget approved $300,000 for pickleball at Wakefield. Will all $300,000 be used for this project? And is any of that money being used to convert courts back to tennis since it was specifically set aside for pickleball?
I'll take that question. So we are, as we said a little bit earlier, we're going to look at this, look at the construction costs for the project. We are very hopeful that we are under that 300 mark, which would give us an opportunity to look at amenities for both tennis and pickleball as we move forward.
And Amy, I can add to that just in terms of the board action from Chairman McKay and myself. It did specify the conversion of the shared use courts back to tennis only. So it wasn't just about the addition of the pickleball courts. It did also specify the restoration of the dedicated tennis court. So that was part of the board action in the 2024 budget that Peter's referring to.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those responses. Question from Kathy Scully. An interesting question. Has there ever been any thought to having alternate days when dual use courts are used as pickleball? Like, for example, I'm guessing this is an example, pickleball Monday and Wednesday, tennis Tuesday and Thursday, to try for a less costly sharing of the courts.
I think that's good. Yep.
I can take that one, Sarah Baldwin. That is not something that we've looked at in our research about how folks are managing pickleball around the country. We have found one of the challenges, once you put rules in place, you have to be able to manage those, supervise and enforce. And given the fact that we have hundreds of courts around the county, it's probably unrealistic for us to oversee a schedule of when folks can use the courts unless they're reserved by people for a specific use. Which anyone could do at any point. If you want a dedicated time, we have a reservation process for reserving those courts.
Thank you. Okay, we have a comment getting back to the size of the courts. USA Pickleball recommends a playing surface of 34 feet by 64 feet. I'm concerned because some of the pickleball courts that Fairfax County has put in are much too close together. I don't go to Lewinsville anymore because I've been knocked to the ground twice by players from adjoining courts. Also, the dedicated courts currently at Wakefield are too small side to side in particular. The retaining wall on court 13 is hazardous. It's extremely fortunate. Sorry, the comments just skipped up. Let me catch my place again. It's extremely fortunate that no one there has gotten hurt. Thank you for the note. That's definitely something to take into consideration. I don't know if Robert has any response related to pickleball court size.
So what we'll do is I'll take that one. We're gonna maximize whatever space we have available to make sure that we can get the best courts out of this conversion. But thank you for that comment. We'll look into that.
We also have, did the Parks Group seek input prior to pulling together this proposal? If so, what was done? If not, why not?
I can take that one. So this is the beginning of our discussion for these types of renovations and additions. We go out with a 30-day comment period, and then we work those comments into our proposal. So this is the beginning.
Correct.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to add to that this is one of the locations that was identified in the very comprehensive pickleball study that the Park Authority ably conducted, that included Ben or Amy, you all could speak to it, a lot of community outreach and engagement and input, and this is one of the locations that was identified.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. Next comment is from Steve Yanucci. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. What is the current status of the design and procurement of each phase of this project?
So currently we're in concept. We are in proposal stage. We have not done any procurement and any design for this yet because we are in our public input phase.
Thank you. Next comment from Peter. If the conversion project comes in under $300,000 and there is money left over in the budget, will this money be used to potentially build courts at Nottoway or Oakmont? Fairfax City was able to build 5 dedicated courts for $100,000, so it seems reasonable that there may be excess money available for additional courts elsewhere within the county. Appreciate the comment. I'll lean on perhaps Brendan and Robert to respond more in terms of the financing, but I would just begin by saying it's been my experience that every project is different. There are different considerations that go into it. So, I'll let them build on that idea.
I can answer. Thank you, Ben. Brendan Hannafin, Park Authority. If it comes in under budget, which we do expect to be well within budget, we'll determine. I would expect from this meeting, we'll probably look at kind of doing the other courts over as much as we can do with that additional money. But the money was earmarked for Wakefield, and that's where it'll stay, unless another board action happens to move it.
Thank you, Brendan. Appreciate that. Next comment. There were 2 courts previously below court 11 and to the right of court 8 that were previously pickleball courts. What happens to them for the future?
They'll remain. The 2 dedicated courts that the chatter is referring to will stay there. We're not planning to move them or make any adjustments to them at this time.
Thank you, Robert. Next comment. It looks like the new pickleball courts are oriented east-west, which will point players facing the setting sun. Tennis courts are oriented in a more player-friendly north-south. Any options for realigning the courts?
I think similar to the conversation about the runoff areas, it's a question of fitting in, getting the most bang for our buck. We could realign the courts to north-south, but we would not be able to fit as many courts into the same space. And if we start to talk about expanding beyond the current surfacing, our budget becomes an issue.
Thank you. Next comment. The county seems to be moving towards placing pickleball courts in non-residential environments. Why consider reducing the potential quantity of pickleball courts at Wakefield?
I don't think we're reducing the quantity of pickleball courts at Wakefield.
No, yes. Yeah. The total number of dedicated pickleball courts would be increased by 6. And that is dedicated pickleball use, not the current 4 that are shared with 2 tennis courts. So yeah, that would be an increase. The next comment, does the county have any quantitative data on the peak demand for pickleball or tennis to help guide this decision? Great question.
I think that our data on the usage and the peak demand is mainly coming from the work that went into the pickleball study. As far as specific court data, I don't believe we have that, but someone else on staff can correct me if I'm incorrect.
So the data, Sarah Baldwin, that we have available is based on the reservations of courts. So we reserve courts for various groups as well as individuals. So that data guides us in terms of, where we have the ability to dual stripe or convert courts based on their usage and that reservation.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, for all the callers, we've hit kind of a pause on some of the incoming questions. We just want to remind any callers on the line, if you would like to make a comment directly to our staff, you can press star and then select number 3 to be entered into our speakers queue, and we can take your call live on the phone and respond to any questions or comments you have.
Ben, is it possible to leave a voice message too?
That is a great question. I'm going to have to ask Dawn.
I believe it's star 2.
I believe star 2.
Yes.
Yes. Is that instruction? Oh, there we go. I see that. John, thank you for that confirmation. Yes, it is star 2 to leave a voicemail that will be added to the record and be able to be available for our staff's consideration. Again, let me just remind everyone that a copy of the recording of this meeting will be made available online on this website that you're currently on if you're participating through our public input page. Additionally, we will be posting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that was shared, and we will have that comment field on this page. for a period of 30 days, beginning this evening, running through August 8th, where we'll be more than happy to receive additional questions, comments, and considerations for this project. With that, we'll just give another moment or two, see if we have any additional questions. Oh, I did see something get added into the chat. I use tennis courts year round, never do renovations, never do reservations, and host 12 players a week. Thank you for that information. We appreciate that. Another comment just came in. If you are proposing converting courts 9 and 10 back to tennis first before the other pickleball courts are created, aren't you reducing pickleball courts to only 2 in the near term?
That's correct. It would be a pretty quick turnaround, though. I'm just pulling back up my.
Maybe if you could
background.
open the project timeline, that might help show kind of the time frames we're talking about. I believe that was one of those slides, 5 perhaps.
Let's see if I can get the sharing right on the first try this time. Okay.
While Robert is doing that, this is Amy Vosper with the Park Authority. As we move through the process in terms of getting our permits and the concepts into design, we'll certainly look at the scheduling and the sequencing of the construction.
Yes. So here's the timeline as we see it now. Again, to Amy's point, once we actually get the contractor on board and figure out the specifics, this is subject to change. But right now we're thinking the restriping of courts 9 and 10 would take about 2 weeks. And then the court 11 conversion would take 6 weeks to get it into a playable condition. And I'm not 100% sure, maybe Karen can provide a little more info. Do we think there will be overlap of those 2 times, or is it 2 weeks on 9 and 10, and then they move to court 11?
This is Karen speaking. We can direct the vendor as needed. However, I will say if we're going to move forward with some of this in the fall, likely that will be the vendor's last project this year. So I will say more than likely they run 2 crews, 1 construction and 1 the repair resurface. So what that would mean is 9 and 10 would be the dual use until they're ready to paint both the 11 conversion and 9 and 10 is what I'm guessing will happen based on the likely timing this fall.
Okay. All right. So I think that's good news for the question that was asked, because the court 11 would get to a mostly complete phase, and then the painting would be done on both courts. So the dual use courts would be open while some of the work on courts 11 is ongoing.
Yes.
Thank you. And skipping down, we did see thank you, Kathy, for your comment about perhaps looking at the sequencing of the project. That's something that will definitely take place as we work with the vendor, and something to consider. We'll definitely look at that. We really appreciate that comment. We have another comment here. Many localities in Virginia have pickleball courts that are used for major tournaments. Does FCPA anticipate holding tournaments at Wakefield, which could bring in additional revenue and economic benefit to the area? That's a great question.
So I can take that one, Sarah Baldwin. We do host many tournaments at our facilities currently. Jefferson District is one of our court facilities that's very popular for tournaments. So the Park Authority has not hosted the tournaments in the past, but we've worked with many organizers to host their tournaments at our sites, and would do that moving forward if there is an interest.
Thank you. Our next comment, a better reservation system may be one way to avoid conflict while still having dual use facilities. Has Fairfax County considered an online reservation system similar to the system in the city of Falls Church? It is easy to use and allows even non-residents to tell what facilities are reserved and when. If a court is reserved for tennis, it is used for tennis. If it's reserved for pickleball, it's used for pickleball. No conflict.
One of the recommendations, Sarah Baldwin again, one of the recommendations out of the pickleball study is for us to research a reservation system. We are much larger than many of the localities that we've benchmarked that actually have systems, and it would require an IT system for us to be able to implement that. So it is something on our radar and something we are considering, but we will need a system to do that and funding as well.
And I think something else that for this specific proposal, we're looking at increasing the number of dedicated courts for both uses. So I think that while that's something to consider, we're also trying to just avoid that issue altogether with this specific proposal.
Thank you. And another comment has come in. We considered segregating the two sports? And it looks like this is referencing putting tennis at Wakefield and pickleball at Hidden Oaks, basically taking the different sports and putting them at two separate locations. Anyone like to take that? Or I think, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Sarah Baldwin again. So this is something that we're doing throughout the county. There are tennis courts, in the southern end of the county, and then we have a large complex at George Washington Rec Center Park. So if you look at our park amenity locator, you can see where tennis and pickleball courts are, and many are at different parks and locations throughout the county.
Thank you. And really, thank you for referencing the park amenity locator. This is a great new tool that is very helpful in locating all kinds of amenities within the park system, including pickleball and tennis courts. For those of you that may not be aware of it, if you go to the Fairfax County Park Authority website and search up amenity locator or park amenity locator, or just visit fairfaxcounty.gov/parks/locator, you'll be able to find that tool. There is an award-winning tutorial video that will help show you how to use that tool to find amenities that meet your needs and interests throughout the park system. So we definitely invite you to utilize that tool. Thank you. And thank you, Robert, for putting that in the chat. We appreciate that. Excellent. Seeing as we've hit another plateau, just one final reminder, if anyone is calling in on the line and would like to submit comments directly to our staff, you can hit star and then enter the caller's queue by pressing number 3, or leave us a message by pressing number 2. As it appears we are winding down, I definitely want to remind everyone that a copy of this video presentation will be made available on the website following this meeting, and there will be the comment field open on the project website on public input, where we will be welcoming additional comments, thoughts, and considerations related to this project now through August 8th, period of 30 days. With that, we're just doing one final check of any indicated questions or comments. At this time, we have not seen any further comments come in. So again, let me close by just reminding everyone, if you're on the phone or if you're watching this, you're already there, but just want to remind everybody about the website. It's engage.fairfaxcounty.gov/Wakefield project. And there you'll find all the information that's been shared to date. You'll find a copy of this video presentation, and any additional questions can be submitted from that page that our staff can take into consideration in determining the appropriate next steps for this exciting proposal to increase tennis and pickleball opportunities at Wakefield Park. We really appreciate those that have attended this evening and shared such great comments and feedback. We definitely take the comments under advisement. We really appreciate your thoughtful participation this evening and look forward to any further comments that might be shared with us. Just one more check here.
If there are others,
Yes.
that did not get a chance to come tonight or had problems, they can always leave a message with our website as well. There are signs at the courts with QR codes.
Yes.
That will lead them directly to able to put in a comment.
Correct. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, seeing and hearing no additional comments, again, we thank you for being a part of this evening's community information meeting, and we wish you a very pleasant and safe evening. Thank you so much, and good night.